Hello, this is a design review of set 14 of Teamfight Tactics. I have played a lot of this set. I'm currently unemployed, so I spent way too many games getting up to Masters. So I'm not an amazing player, I'm not claiming to give you a professional player perspective on it. I'm here to talk about the design of the set and Teamfight Tactics in general. I'm not a game designer myself, but I've written extensively on the game design specifically of Magic the Gathering, which is a big influence on TFT. Both me and Mortdog have read a lot by Mark Rosewater, who is a Magic designer. So if you want to read more about Magic design, look up my old blog, Killing a Goldfish, where I talk about the set design of Magic sets. But here we're not talking about Magic, we are talking about Teamfight Tactics. So before I get into the specific set, one of the big ideas of design of Teamfight Tactics is how, as a designer, do you stop every game that players play from feeling exactly the same? That is, how do you stop players from going into a game knowing what the best composition is and forcing that composition every single time? Because players will do what wins them the most games, even if it's boring and makes them hate their life. That is just how competitive people are wired. You have to trick them into having fun by switching things up and making them do different things. Similarly, one of the goals of a Teamfight Tactics set should be to feel different from every other Teamfight Tactics set. You should go into a new set and be like, wow, this is a different experience than the previous sets. Otherwise, why even have new sets? Just leave it the same all the time. In this way, I think, in this entire review, this is what I'm going to be most critical of set 14 for. I think that it has failed in differentiating itself from other sets. It is a completely competent, solidly designed TFT set. There's nothing in it that's like outright miserable to play, like previous sets, like, I don't know, Dragonlance. There was just something in the game that made it not fun. TFT set 14 is fine, but so much of it, design-wise, has been reused from previous sets that it just feels a little samey. The set mechanic is basically encounters, basically reused from previous ones. The set aesthetic even feels reused from Cyber City. Even the mid-set of that, Cyber City Glitched Out, had some of even the same mechanics of these glitched out carousels that are now hacked carousels. So it feels phoned in that they couldn't even make a new aesthetic for a set that they hadn't done before. A lot of reprinted units, and not just in the 1s and 2 costs, which a reprint would probably be fine, but even a lot of the 4 costs, like Brand is basically a Varus reprint from last set. Entire origins are reused from previous sets. Like Street Demon, one of the big origins of the set is just KDA from set 10, and I don't even think as much fun as KDA it was, but we'll get into exactly why. So overall, I think the set felt a bit undercooked or under ambitious. I'm wondering, like, were these last minute fixes, like backup plans that designers had because they were working on a more ambitious set mechanic or more ambitious units and origins, and something just didn't work out in time, and so they had to ship something because they're on a strict deadline, and so they had to go with the fallback plan of, okay, let's just do a slight variant on stuff that we've done before because we know it's basically going to work. We're not going to fuck it up too bad. Not going to ship out an even more broken version of admin or something that was just impossible to balance. The set takes few very big swings. The only thing that's truly new and different are the augments, the hacked augments as they call them, where you would have probably the most, one that stands out the most is where you choose between 2 of one tier of augment or one of another one, or the black market augments, which were these augments that were removed from the game previously and they're back in as the separate category of black market. I think this is really cool. I like the black market ones especially. It's like really exciting when you have the black market ones in the game just to like see what you're going to get because they come up so rarely. I wonder if they could have gone even further with this mechanic and just made the set mechanic like, hey, we're hacking augments, we're going even harder. Like, what if those black market augments, they were a new tier, you know? Don't call it prismatic tier, but it's black market. It's like hack tier and they're green or something. I just wonder, could they have gone further with this mechanic to make that stand out more instead of assholes like me being like, oh, it's just encounters. So I will say I like the set a lot more now. I'm recording this as of patch 14.5. I like it a lot more than I did in patches 1, 2, or 3 because there was too many resources in the game, too many items, too much gold. It felt it was a lot, and I think scaling that back a little bit really helped the set. I think of where you give the players too much as the Chipotle effect, and what I mean is you go to Chipotle, the fine fast food restaurant Chipotle, and you get a bunch of things. You get your beans and your rice and your corn and your salsa and your guacamole and your meat, and you mix it all together. And basically, when you add enough different things together and mix it all in, it doesn't really taste like any of those ingredients anymore. It just tastes like Chipotle. And so in this case, for this set, when you have all of these different encounters and all these different hacks, augments, and all this stuff giving you extra resources, similar to last time they did encounters, you throw that all together, it doesn't feel like, oh, this game is really different because of this one encounter. It just feels like you're getting a lot of everything. It all kind of blends together into feeling the same. So props to the live balance team for fixing that. I think it helped even the design of the set a lot to pull back on that. So I think the overall, like, as someone analyzing game design, I'm supposed to be able to like separate the balance from the design. And in a game like Magic, you can kind of do that. In TFT, it's really hard because every single game that you queue, no matter what MMR you're at, you're going to be affected by the design. Like, if one origin or one class or one composition is way more powerful than the others, you're going to see 3 or 4 players playing it in every single game, and that will affect your experience of the set no matter what. So it's very tough to distinguish like balance from design, but I'll do my best. So one of the goals that the designers clearly had with this set, was making some origins that were accessible to players and that were easy to play. So when I say easy to play, what do I mean? I'm not talking shit and being like, oh, this is for newbies, like, how dare they? They need to make the game like challenging. No, it's good. It's good that they have a couple origins that are more accessible for new players. So there's 2 specifically that are more accessible for new players. There's Anima Squad, I just call it Anime, and Street Demon. So what makes these, I think, more accessible? So if I put Street Demon into the planner, I just click every unit, and I won't even click the 5 cost because most games you're not going to guarantee seeing it at least. So you look over here, you already have 2 strategists, you have 2 techie. So a trait is easier if it has overlapping traits. Like, you're going to be playing techie, you're going to be playing strategist. Easy. At its extreme, there was Star Guardians from, I forget which set, where there were 3 sorcerers in it. Like, that was really easy to play because you play Star Guardians, you're playing sorcerers, whether you want to or not. Or a little extension of this, say Anime here, with 1 additional unit, you can bridge 2 of the traits. So in this case, I will add the Aurora in, and then if you add in Jin, then you get Marksman, you get the Dynamo. Really easy, right? So the next thing that makes a trait easier to play is that you can hit the vertical without playing the 5 cost. So I'll just put this right back in, and all 1, 2, 3, and 4 costs, 7 units, you've hit the top other than the prismatic one. So you don't have to wait to get that 5 cost. You don't have to rely on that much luck, and you don't have to rely on an emblem. Back in set 1, this was not the case. So the most accessible, easiest trait that people would go for was Noble, because it was really powerful early game. But to hit the gold tier on that, you had to hit a 5 cost, and so people would just like come up 1 unit short and never find the Kale and lose. So they fixed that. They made it a little bit easier. It's also another thing, which is that just by putting these units in, it's going to be fairly well balanced in terms of frontline and carries. So you have your carry, your 80 carry Zaya here, and you have frontline, your Alawi and your Silas and Leona. So you don't have to worry about like, what's my frontline going to be? If you compare that to a trait that I would consider more difficult, even as an origin, like let's say Golden Ox, right? Golden Ox, you're going to have like more trouble with some of these. So there are no overlapping traits. You don't have like the same items. Like you can't like easily slam like a blue buff onto a Graves. Like maybe you could slam 80 items onto a Graves, but nothing holds items for Annie here. Unless you hit the 5 cost or the emblem, you're not going to hit the whole trait. Oh, that was another thing about the anime and Street Demon as like easier traits, which is that they give you an easy item holder. So your carry is going to be Zaya, so then you put items on Vayne. Similarly, even easier for Street Demon, you have this, you have 1 cost that uses all the same items as Brand. So you can hold it hold that, use one of your removers that you get for free now, great change, and move it on over. Easy. Easy traits should be good introductions to the game, whereas hard to play origins and classes, harder to play lines, should challenge experienced players to figure out like how to take advantage of that power. One example right now, one of the S tier compositions is going to be Amp. So you get these units in there, and you can see that this is going to be a bit more difficult because like you have carries here, and they Samira with 5 amp does a shitload of damage, but you have to rely on a 5 cost. You don't have any real frontline built in. You have your like a 1 and a 2 cost. And neither of them are tanks. So it's going to challenge players that are more experienced with the game of like, okay, how do you figure out this puzzle? How do you survive through the game to get the 5 cost, and how do you build a composition where you have to play 5 units and none of them are tanks? It is a balance challenge though, to have these easier compositions in the game. So Street Demon, as an example, a couple patches ago when Street Demon was the best line in the game, it can feel like not challenging enough for experienced players, where you go in, you click all of the Street Demon units, you're like, okay, I'm in strategist, so I guess I'll add 1 more strategist, and then at level 9 I'll cap it off with a thing that gives me 2 more traits. Woo. So if Street Demon, for example, is a better trait than Golden Ox, if it's a better trait than Amp, then like why would you bother optimizing Amp? Why would you bother playing flexibly and like figuring out how to survive to late game with Amp or Golden Ox when someone you could like turn your brain off pretty much and play Street Demon? So for that reason, I think it's in a much better spot now, where Street Demon is like still super playable. Anime Squad is still playable. Like these are played in challenge or lobbies. You'll do fine with them, but they're not going to be as good as some of the more challenging lines like Amp, Golden Ox, Dynamo Flex, stuff like that. So just want to bring that up as like one of the challenges with design of having these easier traits in the game. So another thing that I picked up on that they've been changing a little bit every set is there are more and more units that have 3 traits than ever before. So there's 2 1-cost units that have 3 traits, Kindred and Dr. Mundo, right? It's not just Mundo. We got Jin, we got Shivana, we got Yumi, and we got Mordekaiser. So just in 1, 2, and 3 costs, that's 6 units. So what effect does this have on the game? Well, it opens up more lines. It makes you more flexible. Like you get an early 2-star Jin in stage 2, for example. Well, now you have options of like, do you play which of those 3 traits do you go for? Do you like play a board that activates all 3 of them, et cetera, et cetera. This is good for the game. Just like encourages more creative play, more flexibility. Me from the future doing video editing alongside my editing partner, Jazz, over here. I forgot about Jarvan, so there's another one. 7, 1, 2, and 3 costs with 3 traits. And similarly to this, there are more traits overall that are like 2, 3, 4, 5. Like the breakpoints aren't so far apart. Back in the early days of TFT, there would be traits that were just 3, 6. That was it. Like either you played a 3-piece, you played a 6-piece, and then they started doing more and more 2, 4, 6, 8 kind of traits. In this set, we have, let's see, where's my list? So we got Cyber Boss, which kind of an exception, 3 is kind of fake. Cypher, Divinicore, Nitro, Amp, Dynamo, Executioner, and Strategist. Those are all traits that increase at level by 1 for each additional unit that you add. Again, what is the effect? What effect does this have on the game? It encourages more flexible play. Like, do you play 2 strategists, 3, 4? It's, if the choice was just between like 3 or 6, like one of those is usually going to be the superior option, and you can forget about everything else. Giving players more options of like 3, 4, 5, 6, or 2, 3, 4 makes more lines viable. So great job by the designers. I think it's a way that kind of under the hood, TFT has been improving in encouraging players to be flexible as they're playing. Make sure that you're not playing the same line every single game. One design intention that Mort talked about this time was making so that when you slam early items, that you could use them on multiple 4 costs. So if I go into cost and I click on every 4 cost that is not a tank. So what do I have here? So I have my blue buff users, I have my attack speed carries. Where's my other? So I have my, did I miss one? Misfortune and Zaya are the casters. I thought there was another attack speed carry. Oh, right, yeah, Zeri. So we have blue buff slam, you play these, rage blade slam, or now Kraken, but that didn't exist when the set came out, IE and Shojin and AP. So that was the idea, but people pretty quickly pointed out that my guy Zed over here is kind of left out in the cold from this, and many people have criticized the set for a lack of users for the fighter bruiser kind of options, and it's legitimate criticism. They really should have done this. So what I don't want to, this is more of like design criticism rather than like, oh, here's what they should have done. But I think if you look at Vex's design, I kind of wonder, like earlier in the design, was Vex supposed to be like more of an AP bruiser type? Because that would make sense, because then you would have like 2 units where you could play like Bloodthirster, Titan, stuff like that. And she has Omnivamp built into her kit, and then deals more damage based on Omnivamp. So I kind of wonder why. Like, why not make that unit 2 range, and then put more emphasis on like the survivability, maybe cut back on the damage, but give her more resist or something. And then she would be able to still use blue buff and AP items and share that with Annie, but then, and Archangels, stuff like that, but then also be able to use Bloodthirster and stuff overlapping with Zed. So I don't know if that was the answer, or if the answer was they just needed to add a 10th 4 cost to the game, so that there could be that. I don't know. Zed was left out. We have to acknowledge that. Okay. So now I'm just going to go origin by origin and talk about the design, what I think of each of them. So going back to Anime Squad, which mentioned a little bit. So here's our Anime Squad. So the gimmick or the idea of the trait is that you make these choices at each breakpoint for which weapon you want at 3, 5, 7, and then if you get to 10. I don't think this is good. In fact, I think there's a bunch of design problems with Anima Squad. So the first problem is that it's kind of a false choice. It just presents you either a magic damage one or a physical damage one. But there's going to be one correct choice. It's if you have armor shred, then you hit AD. If you have what's it called? No, Sunder is the armor shred, and I guess shred is the MR reduction one, right? But you're always going to be building around Xayah if you're doing vertical Anime Squad, like unless you really are relying on late game Aurora, like you're gonna be building around Xayah, because don't tell Mort Dog this, but Aurora is a support unit. She brings a unit off your bench and then applies a Morello to the enemy team. She's a support unit. So beyond that, I feel like Anime Squad, it baits you, because like say that you get the Anime Squad opener, right? So you have 2 tanks and you have a carry, right? So you hover over Silas, magic tank. You hover over Alawi, magic tank. What does Alawi do? She reduces magic resist. Okay, what does my carry do? Seraphine. Oh, she's a magic caster, sick. Well, I'm gonna build a bunch of AP items. I'm gonna build more MR shred, and I'm gonna click on the magic damage ones. And then you build your vertical Anime Squad composition and you roll at level 8 like you're supposed to, and you get your 4-cost carry, which is Xayah. So this was a mistake, I think. Either they should have made it a real choice where like there's a 4-cost carry of both AP and AD, or they, at the very least, there should be like a better way to tell players like if this is your easiest trait alongside Street Demon, like how to build around Xayah. Because currently the item holder for Xayah within the anime line is supposed to be Vayne. But Vayne is an attack speed carry rather than the caster that Xayah is. You don't really want to slam like Shojin on Vayne. You're supposed to slam like Rageblade and Kraken on Vayne, which are terrible items for Xayah. So I think they could have done a little bit more here to make Anime Squad more accessible. But just the overall trait, I think that the choose your weapon thing, it's not much of a choice. So I think that was kind of a miss. I will say though, so one of the things that they have started doing this set is every, I'm not sure if it's every trait or just every origin and some of the classes, they have 2 different augments that you can take that enhance that specific trait. And both of them for Anime Squad are really fun. So I think for each of these where you have 2, there's supposed to be one more econ focused and one more like combat focused. And so Support Spire gives you the combat, and then the power leveling, I think it's called, is the one that gives you these little like almost like Bard from set 3, where you get these little orbs on your board that you can sell for XP. I think my favorite combination of the 2 augments, other than Cyber Boss. Okay, so next onto the other, I'll skip it over alphabetically and go to our other accessible trait, which is going to be Street Demon. So Street Demon, one of the great things about KDA last time, which this is basically a reprint of with the hexes, is that it had Akali, and Akali was so fucking cool. Like, not only did she bounce around the board, but she had like the 2 different traits. Also, KDA had 2 different 4-cost carries. It had Akali, and it had Sona was 5 cost. It had Ari was the other 4-cost carry. Street Demon only has one, and I think that for the most accessible trait that like new players are going to be playing at 4 cost, they had basically a reprint as the carry of the trait of Brand, who's basically a reprint of Varus. I think that for your most accessible ones that new players are going to play, your big carry should do something like, it should be the coolest 4 cost of the carry, whether that's like trait switching or just something that's, you know, more unique. Basically just take a 5 cost carry that does something like really outrageous and make it the 4 cost carry and balance around that, because you want players to be like blown away in their first games of TFT where they, you know, have a Street Demon open and click every Street Demon unit, right? So that's my criticism there. The augments for Street Demon I don't think landed as well. They just feel a little too similar to one another. So one of them, I forget the names of it, but one of them, it wipes away all of your Street Demon hexes, and then you paint, I think it's Tagging Spree, or is that the other one? You paint the whole board and then it gives you gold. The other one gives you spray can icons that paint one of the hexes. Like both of the augments revolve around like making certain hexes that weren't Street Demon hexes into Street Demon hexes. I think they could have varied it up a little bit more. Okay. Next, the other big vertical, the third one that has a prismatic trait, is going to be Exotech. So Exotech is not as accessible. You can see that it has the Bastion overlap, but nothing else. Zeri does not, someone's yelling outside. Jin is not a great item holder for Zeri. And the main mechanic of Exotech, I'm going to call this every set. Every set has basically the same structure in terms of it gets one of these traits. Has a reroll trait, it has a loss streak trait, it has a win streak trait, it has what I'm going to call a variance trait. Something where every game you have to like open up Team Planner or hover over something and see what the trait is for you this game. Mirage or Mutant were previous versions of this in previous sets. For Exotech, it's different. It's not the same for every player like it was for Mutant or Mirage, where just every player, like that's what the trait was that game. It's different where one player might have different items than another. So the question is then, why did the designers choose this? Why not balance it so that everyone has the same items, right? Well, the answer is that if you queue up, or like you're in the game, and everyone sees that the Exotech item is like the broken Zeri item, well, everyone's gonna, you know, force Exotech. Or if it's a terrible Zeri item and you need it to play Zeri, then no one's going to play Zeri. It's very all or nothing. So you don't want the trade to be either like super contested and then no one's hitting and everyone has a bad time, or completely abandoned by players. So that's why the trade is like that, which I think makes sense. In terms of review, I'm going to be honest, I think we got to give Exotech kind of an incomplete grade for now, because the balance on it has just been really off. Both of the augments have been like either wildly overpowered or unplayable. Like the Cyberdeck one was just like the best augment that's ever been created, whereas Test Run, I think legitimately might be the worst augment I've ever clicked. Like that golem does just stone nothing. So I'm excited to see next patch where they again buff Exotech and actually get a chance to play with these 7 Exotech lines and see how the trait feels. But I'll come back to this once we get more knowledge about it. Okay, next off to Boombot, which is one of the, so it's a 6-piece trait, but there's only 5 units, so you need the emblem. It's a very emblem-dependent trait. Boombot, I think, is kind of the, design-wise, kind of the runt of the litter in terms of the origins. It's just like, when you deal damage, you deal more damage. Yay. There's nothing really exciting there. I will say, though, while the design of it isn't exciting, the art team really popped off with this one. I love seeing the little turrets pop up and then fire at something. It's even cooler than like the lasers that hung around with like, what was it? It was like Cybercore or Laser Tech or some shit like that from a previous sci-fi themed set. Yeah, Boombot just not much going on here, man. And then it doesn't help that the units like Skarner and Shogath have just been like not that exciting. Pretty much the only lines that people play in this are either Bruiser Fiddlesticks or like Fast 9 Urgot, which is more of an Urgot board than everything else. And then you can really only play it when you get the emblem, because like 6 Boombot has been pretty overbearing compared to everything else. Okay, so next up, Cyber Boss. So this is what I'm going to call a choose your hero trait, which means you get a trait bonus, but you have something and you pick one unit and be like, this is the unit that I'm building around, and that specific unit gets a bonus. So this one I think is strange. It's strange because you're supposed to re-roll around Vigar, like Vigar Poppy, right? Vigar, even his whole like unit design is around being a higher star level than the opponent. So it's not even like you're supposed to stick with Vigar 2 and then, you know, Fast 9 off that or something. You have to re-roll Vigar or else he's kind of shit. But then it also has a 5 cost. So it seems like it's gonna bait a lot of newer players, because they'll like re-roll for Vigar and then get up to the Ziggs and play like 3 Cyber Boss, which is kind of a fake trait, and like maybe late game they find a Kobuko, especially if they're in like Scuttle Puddle or something. But I just think it's odd to have a re-roll focused like choose your hero trait, and then you have to find a 5 cost and there's no emblem to play it. I wonder, would it have been better if you're going to have it small, like a 4-piece, to do like 1, 2, 4, 4 instead of 1, 2, 4, 5, just to make it like a little bit easier to hit that 4-piece. I'll also say both of these augments are pretty solid. Specifically, I think the new high score is my favorite of all the trait augments. Just love, you know, seeing the number go up, try to get, you know, like see what the next cash out is going to be. Super fun. And I almost wonder, like, should that have just been built into the trait? Like, I mean, it'd basically just be 8-bit again, but like it is the thing that guarantees you a Ziggs or a Kobuko when you're re-rolling Vigar, and the trait kind of feels crappy unless you have one of the unless you have that, because hitting Kobuko is just such a gamble. Okay, so I'm gonna skip from one choose your hero origin to the other choose your hero origin. I think it was odd that they have 2 different choose your hero origins in the same set. And they tried to hide it a little bit by having a different mechanic to like choose which one, whereas in Cyber Boss it's like either the most items or the last unit that you moved, whereas in Syndicate it gives you a little hat. But it would basically be the same thing, right, if it was the other way around. Like if Cyber Boss gave you a little, I don't know, a little dollar bill that like made someone the boss or whatever, whereas Syndicate, you know, was last moved or whatever. So pretty similar in terms of feel, in that it's these choose your hero traits. Basically the idea that, like, the reason that as a designer you would make this is that there's supposed to be like 5 different builds, right? 5 different units in the set. So then there are going to be 5 different lines that you can play, one for each of like making them into a carry, which I think is cool. And definitely we've seen carry Shaco, carry Twisted Fate, carry Misfortune all do really well. I would have liked to see a little bit more in terms of putting the hat on Darius or Braum specific. I mean, you put the hat on them either in Dynamo when you're playing Misfortune just to make Braum tankier, or you put a second hat on Darius or Braum just for more tankiness. But I think it would have been cool if the hat actually like made them into a legitimate carry. Like maybe, what if Darius's 7-piece thing where like it made his AoE huge? what if that was just like his regular three-piece thing? So it made him like from a tank into a carry, almost like a hero augment. Anyway, that's my only criticism of them. On to Cypher. So Cypher is the set's loss streak trait. And I'm not sure if other people have noticed this, but every single loss streak trait is the following structure: 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, and then sometimes there's a 5 cost. Go back and check my work on this one. Every single one since the concept of like loss streak trait was introduced in Fortune has always been 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, and then sometimes 5. So why is that? Or first, more fundamentally, why does the set need a loss streak trait structurally? And the answer isn't for YouTube. The answer isn't because X class of player like loves to see those big cash outs. The reason that every set needs a loss streak trait is to give you something to play for when your opening sucks. So you get your opening thing, you get nothing, or you get like nothing but pairs. Your opening is just garbage. You get opposite items that you needed for whatever unit you wanted, right? Or you just lose your first 3 rounds when you thought your opener was decent, right? So you need something to play for. So then your first pick on the carousel, and you see that because there's 2 3 costs, and the first carousel can have 3 costs, usually before players in the game have 3 costs in their shop. Maybe they got 3 costs from an orb. So then at the carousel, you get your first of the 3 costs from the loss streak trait. They can't guarantee the 3 costs will be on the carousel, because otherwise you could plan around it. You could be like, okay, every single game I'm going to guarantee that I get the Cypher unit off of carousel. That wouldn't be fun, and it has to have an element of risk to it, right? So how do I feel about Cypher compared to previous ones? Well, there's no emblem for it this time. So previously, they had to balance these loss streak traits around the fact that you had an emblem for it, or you had what was it called? Like the superstar bonus, where you could get the 2-star in your shop, that set mechanic. They had to balance it around that. So in those sets, it was like either you had the trait on 2-1, because you got an emblem or you got that unit in your shop, or you didn't get it at all. Whereas this one, they can balance around like, okay, it's like good, it's better if you get it on 2-1, but it's not bad if you put it in, later on in stage 2, or even opening stage 3 if it turns out that you're losing the end of stage 2. So they scaled it this time, where you get more intel the later on stages go, so that if you don't have it in early on in stage 2, it's not as big of a deal. It's also a lot more forgiving for fucking up your loss streak than a trait like Heartsteel was, whereas Heartsteel, you would literally like lose your stacks, and you would have a smaller cash out for winning than you would otherwise. Whereas Cypher, it's like, oh, that's okay, you actually get a few intel from killing units too. So it's a little bit more forgiving. I think some of the cash outs are very strange. Specifically, there's one, I forget what number it's at, where it gives you an entirely techie board. And that's like, you can play around it under a couple conditions. You know that it's a possible cash out because you've seen it before. And so you have a plan of like, okay, if I get the techie cash out, here's what I'm going to do. And you get it like during a neutral round, like 3-7. I think one of the flaws of Cypher, because it gives you these like define, you can cash out at either 3-7 or 4-2 or 4-3. People have figured it out. You cash out on 3-7 because then like you have enough health and you have enough time to do your pivot. I think that the fact that people have figured it out so much, where like there is a correct, this is when you cash out, unless you've gotten like Tiniest Titan or another augment that increases your HP, I think that shows a little bit of the flaw for this, because you don't want it to be like so defined, you know, like you look up a guide and it's like, this is when you're supposed to cash out with that, anything else is a mistake. There should be more flex play to it. But other than that, I think it's pretty good. I think some of the higher cash outs, and like where you get a 2-star Zed with 3 cool items for him, or you get a 2-star Garen with like an artifact and a support item, like those are pretty cool, where it's like, hey, here's what you're playing, other than the techie one. Okay, on to Divinicore, a favorite of mine. I play Divinicore probably way too much. So this is the archetype of the team-wide trait, similar to Guild and Heavenly. And designers watching this, I want you to know, I see what you did, okay? I see what you did. A guild is basically an old-fashioned version of a corporation, or rather, guilds were replaced by corporations. And Heavenly is like divine, so you mash those together, and it's Divinicore. You're very clever, and yes, I did see that. Anyway, I'm just such a sucker for like a one piece, you know? Like I can have whatever board I always want to throw on, like a Morgana, you know, like, ooh, a team-wide buff. I love these traits. I think that they're super cool, and just like the other ones where I profess my love for like the 2, 3, 4, 5, I think that if you're gonna have one origin that's just like in every set, I think having something like Divinicore in every set like wouldn't be too bad. The only thing that you have to watch out for is the Heavenly Cain, or like Divinicore Zed build, where because the fighter forecast is like very thresholdy, where like you invest a lot of stats into them, then they're gonna like be unkillable at a certain point. You got to watch out for that, but I love these traits. Nothing bad to say about it. Okay, Nitro, on the other hand. What do I think of Nitro? You know, I made notes for all of these, and I'm still not sure what I think of Nitro. I'll tell you that I have gotten baited like way too many times into playing Nitro because I get the opener, and it's fucking shit right now, but that's a patch thing. I wonder, this is more of like a competitive level and like a balance thing. Not competitive, but like higher elo thing. They have to balance a reroll trait around augments like no scout, no pivot, around what's it called? Investment something something, the one that gives your units permanent HP for for having gold. And if you don't have one of those augments, then the trait's kind of bad. In fact, the trait seems better with no scout, no pivot than either of the augments that are literally the Nitro augments. I also think the Dino is like kind of boring. It stars up, it'll go like, you know, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, but it like doesn't change that much other than getting a shitload of stats when it becomes a Dino, and it gets like an additional spell when you go from 3 to 4 cost. So this one I'm just being kind of a dick, I guess. I'm just like asking Riot, like, hey, you should have spent more time and money like developing this, but like, yeah. I actually wonder, like, they made this augment that gives you like the backline turret, and I wonder, like, should that have just been the 4-piece, you know? Like, it would have distinguished it from previous reroll or like summon kinds of traits where you always get one thing, right? Like a trait where you get 2 summons, you know, based on like whether you're 3-piece or 4-piece. I think that could have been something cool. Anyway, just a thought. I'm just mad at Nitro because it's baited me into losing a lot of LP before I hit Master. Okay, so that is all of the origins, I think. It was not all of the origins. I don't know how I forgot about Golden Ox. Golden Ox is kind of the opposite of Cypher. Cypher is the lost streak trait, Golden Ox is what I will call the win streak trait, or the high roll trait. Basically, the idea here is that it's a trait that if you can keep it in and win rather than keep it in and lose, like Cypher, it gets more and more powerful and gives you more and more resources over time. So just like 8-bit and sugar something before it. But what do I think of it? It's really fun. I find myself wanting to do Golden Ox in a lot of situations where I probably shouldn't, which is a good sign that like I'm enjoying myself when I play Golden Ox. So something about the design is fun. It's just fun to be late game and see all of that gold and stuff come out, and, you know, items and all that crap. It's definitely a challenge to balance around because basically the how Golden Ox almost every game plays out is that you're winning early because you got enough of a high roll opener to justify you playing Golden Ox, and then it falls off and you start losing, and then you get enough resources from Golden Ox that you have more items, more gold than everyone else in the lobby. You overcome the fact that your synergies are kind of awkward and your units maybe aren't as powerful together as other people's because you hadn't powered up the Golden Ox mechanic with the damage amplification yet. And the mechanic of it just gives damage amp, so it doesn't give you any tank stats like say Street Demon or Anime Squad do. It only gives your backline more stuff. So you have to, you know, add in Bruisers with Alistar or add in Vanguards with Jarvan. I will say that in terms of a high roll or a win streak trait, I liked the ones more where you weren't quite sure what the next cash out would be, at least unless you nerd out and look up a loot table or something. With Golden Ox, like until really late game where you can get components, you're just going to be getting gold. I think the kind of randomness of it is that Cypher comes with a bit is more fun. Just like, are you gonna? It would be cool if, you know, every now and then it was almost like Pirates, you know, where you got like an artifact or you know, oh my god, am I gonna get a radiant item this game if you leave it in and kill enough stuff late game. So that's my only criticism of Golden Ox as a trait. I do think in terms of gameplay, it is very binary as a vertical in terms of you're supposed to play it when you have the emblem. You're not supposed to play it when you don't, because it's really gated by finding that Viego. I guess that's okay because that's only the the people that are like, I actually care about my LP in climbing. Like most people are just gonna have fun and see Golden Ox and, you know, hit 6 Golden Ox when they get the Viego, which is fine. I just think that adding some more randomness in there could have varied up the experience, because every Golden Ox game, one of two things happens. You play Golden Ox and then you lose every round late game and you get eliminated. Or you play Golden Ox and you don't lose the rounds and you get enough gold that you just absolutely steamroll the lobby. Like it's a very first or eighth trait, which is like kind of the fun of it, but I think that some more randomness in there could have varied up the experience more. On to what I think of classes overall, and this is going to be a lot shorter. I miss the traits that would activate when you would get a lot of something, and not just like more tanky for the tanks, right? So like 6-piece Vanguard right now, you have 4-piece. What does it do? Gives you a shield and durability. Then you go up to 6-piece. What does it do? Well, you get more durability while shielded. Woo! I thought it was really cool. There was an old bruiser where at 8-piece, it actually gave your bruisers, I think it was damage based on their HP when they attacked, or something like that. Like where when you played enough of them, there was a fantasy where you could actually turn it into a carry. Now, for the most part, these fantasies have been moved from the trait itself over to augments, which is like, I get it, that's okay. But I still think there's a little bit more work that could have been done into making the higher breakpoints a little bit more unique. Amp is maybe the most unique of all of the classes. So I have no problem with reusing, reprinting classes. Like I go into a new TFT set, I know what a bruiser is, you know? It's like that's one thing that I don't have to learn. I do not have to relearn what a bruiser is. I can play them, they are frontline, cool. Amp is so unique that it's basically at the level of an origin, right? And it's played in games almost as though it's like a vertical origin, right? I actually think that it was a mistake to make one of them a strategist. And the reason for that is that Amp's weakness is, like I said earlier, is this lack of frontline. So I think that making Yuumi an Amp strategist in combination with Street Demon being strategist was a mistake. In that I think that Amp really should have leaned into its identity as this is an extremely powerful but difficult to pilot class for our most advanced players to theorycraft and try to pilot. Because currently with strategist, then you go over to your street demons and you go strategist, and then you have 3 street demon, 3 strategist. Already people have figured out that the way to play Amp is kind of with a flex frontline, right? You have to go level 9 in order to hit the Samira, so you play whatever frontline you hit, even if that's Cho'Gath 2. Like you play that Cho'Gath 2, I guess I'm doing a bruiser frontline until I get to level 9. I think that if Yuumi was not a strategist, if they had made a different unit into a 3 trait, or if you had given Yuumi like Dynamo instead of strategist, then people would have had to dig even deeper into their creativity and their improvisation to make a front line for this every single game. So that's a minor, very nitpicky criticism, and I could be wrong. Like maybe that would have been even too difficult, and they needed to throw people a bone a little bit and give some people some direction in terms of like, okay, here's the front line that like part of your front line that you're supposed to play until you hit like Zac. But Amp overall super cool. I love how it enhances each of their abilities in a different way. It's kind of the opposite of those like choose your hero traits where you don't just pick one. It like improves all of your units more and more, but in unique ways rather than just like they get more AP, they get more tank stats. So Executioner is the other one that I'd say is kind of like, I'll give an incomplete for now. I think that it's really cool how this is one where, yes, at 5 cost, it actually gets something different. So these are like very fragile, damagey units, like Rengar and Graves are frontline bruiser fighter damage dealers, and at Executioner 5, they also get durability. So then they can stay alive a little bit longer. It makes it easier to play a frontline involving Rengar and Graves. I would love it if in patches soon these get some number buffs so that we can see more 5 Executioner lines out there, because I just think that is so cool. Like games, I'd really like to have more games where it's correct for me to go 5 Executioner. Okay, Techie. So Mort Dog has talked about how they do a sorcerer trait every single set, and every set it never has much frontline, right? Well, this set they gave it 2 different frontline, like actual 1 range frontline units, and each of them is a 3 trait unit. So Mordekaiser is Bruiser, Shyvana is Bastion, so it makes it way easier to play a frontline. And then Fiddlesticks has some survivability, and Viego, when you find him, is a frontliner. Again, being a dick that always asks for more, like, I wonder, instead of just like higher and higher numbers, like, could they have given techies something more unique here? Because again, Mort Dog won't want to hear this, the dealing less damage, that's a support ability. You've made support units. And hitting 8-piece, like, you're not going to like clap your hands and pump your fists. Like, yeah, they're dealing 18% less damage now. Like, what? I think that what it should have done is take advantage of that, huge chunk of AP. Like, what if their units got some other stat, like they got resistances or they got durability based on their AP once you get to 8 costs. So again, being a dick, asking for more and more. And then similar, my biggest pet peeve of the design of this set. So all of these that are in classes where they have an emblem that you can craft, like currently overpowered on this patch, Dynamo. So Dynamo caps off at 5, there is no 6-piece, and there's 5 units, and it stops at 4-piece, because it's like, well, we don't want to bait people into doing too much. And Bruiser, similarly, there is an emblem that you can craft, 7 Bruisers in the game, caps off at 6. Similar, like, well, we don't want to bait people into playing too many Bruisers and not playing, any damage dealers or whatever. And that's true for all of these, except for Rapid Fire. Why does Rapid Fire get to be the exception here? If your thing is like, well, we don't want to bait people into, playing all ranged units, that literally makes it into a ranged unit when you put it on. It's so annoying. Like, I think it is cool that there is a 6 Rapid Fire trait in the game. Maybe it's a little overbearing before. I am sick of seeing Rapid Fire renekted, but if Rapid Fire gets to have fun, why not Marksman? Why not Dynamo and Strategist and Vanguard and all the other ones, So my little pet peeve with that over, I just wish that the same love that was given to Rapid Fire and the 5-piece trait of Executioner was given equally to maybe not all of the traits, but more of these traits of like that 1 in 100 game where like, it actually was the correct spot for me to go like 8 Bruiser or something. I think that would be really cool. Okay, so this has been my design review combined with just like things I've noticed from the set. I hope maybe you learned something that you didn't notice about the set before, and that this starts some good conversation about like what is a good TFT set, what's going on under the hood in the design. So hope you enjoy. Bye.